Roghnu's data anomaly analytics helps companies proactively monitor their Sage Intact environment for best practices and risk management. Now, we already have several videos that go through specific reports in our data anomalies report offerings. In this video, I want to go through each report quickly, briefly, explaining what the reports show and why they're valuable. Here we have the Benford's Law Stats report. And what this does is it helps detect anomalies or potential fraud in datasets by showing that in naturally occurring numbers, smaller leading digits appear more frequently than larger ones. So as you can see in the table here, you have the expected frequency and then the actual frequency. So the actual frequency varies significantly from the expected frequency. It'll have a flag of warning. If it's a slight variation, it's going to have a flag of loose, and then very minimal variation, it'll show tight. Prior period entries displays the number of transactions that were entered in months prior to the last period, which is 2 or more months old. This helps identify users posting outdated or backdated transactions. So as you can see here, this information is broken down by year and month and also by the username. So you can easily see if there are users who are going back to update books. The first transaction report shows the earliest transaction made by each user, organized by database table. This helps you track what table and when each user's activity began. Here's a really important one, segregation of duties, which highlights users who both create vendors and pay bills, as well as those who create customers and issue invoices. This helps identify users performing duties that may warrant additional review or separation of responsibilities. The vendors not recently paid report provides a list of vendors that have not received payments in the last 2 months. So use this to identify inactive vendors or records that may need review or cleanup. Vendors with no bills displays vendors that have been created but do not have any associated accounts payable bills. This helps identify incomplete vendor records or potential setup issues. The customers never invoice report displays all customers that have been created but have not yet generated any AR transactions. So use this to identify inactive or newly added customers requiring follow-up. Customers not recently invoiced lists customers that have not received an invoice in the last 2 months. So you can use this to identify inactive customers or records that may need review or cleanup. The GL account variance report compares the current month's balance to the prior 3-month average and calculates the standard deviation. So you have upper and lower limits that are applied to highlight amounts that fall outside the expected range, helping identify unusual or potentially risky activity. Note here that the only periods that fall outside the standard deviation are displayed. AP bills exceeding limits lists bills where the bill amount exceeds either the upper or lower limit of standard deviation for the last 2 years. AR invoices exceeding limits lists invoices where the invoice amount exceeds either the upper or lower limit of standard deviation for the last 2 years, just like the AP bills exceeding limits. The transaction growth report lists tables and record count differences between 30-day increments. The red and green dots in the line charts at the bottom pertain to the lowest value and the highest value, not necessarily negative and positive or good and bad. So this report allows you to easily see increases or decreases or simply changes in transactions in your database. The transaction volume change report is very much like the transaction growth, but this also includes volumes. So this includes both volumes of and deltas between 30-day increments. And then you have spark lines in the tables to allow you to easily see increases and decreases. User transaction counts lists users within each data set. In this case, we have here accounts receivable, accounts payable, and general ledger. And it shows the number of transactions for that data set. And so here we have it broken out on the left-hand side, data set, and then user. And then on the right-hand side, you have the user and then the data set. So one of the benefits of this is it can alert you to a user having access to a data set that they should not have access to or should not be making transactions in, for example. The dataset user list records users that have created or modified records in each dataset. So very similar to the user transaction counts report. Finally, we have the broken transactions report, which lists missing records between related tables. So this shows if there are missing records between tables that are dependent on one another, it'll show the number of records that are missing.
For more information on working with Roghnu and exploring how the data portal can help you get the most out of Sage Intacct alongside your other critical business data, scan the code on the screen or click in the link in the description.